Hello and welcome. This is David Brower with the Make Living Pleasurable Show. I'm very honored to have a very creative guest with me today, Jeff Leisawitz. Today we're going to be speaking about pleasures in living your creative process. I'm really excited to have Jeff here because when we speak about creativity and creative output and just the process of loving creativity, I couldn't be more pleased to have somebody like yourself, Jeff. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Sure, pleasure. So I'm going to do a little introduction, and if there's anything you want to add after the introduction, feel free to. But
sure.
What I'd just like to say about Jeff is he's really an internationally in-demand life coach for creative types and creatives. This goes from artists to performers to solopreneurs to different businesses even. He's really helping people to tap into their potential, shine in the world, spread the love, to actually enjoy and love the process, know why they're doing it, and to have a, pretty strong capacity for creative output. Yourself, Jeff, 5,000 music placements in film and television, is that right?
It's a lot of placements.
5,000. And also on Pandora, you have 1 million downloads, is that right? For your music?
1 million plays.
Plays?
Yeah, I made a record with just electronic versions of U2 songs with female singers. So the band is called Electron Love Theory. You can check that out if you want.
Awesome. We'll put a link in that later on. So yeah, Jeff is putting on seminars, teaching, instructing people, guiding people, working with people, coaching with creative types, including from his background in distributing, screenwriting, and directing and producing different creative materials in the world. So again, welcome to the Make Living Pleasurable Show, where what we really want to do is find a way to integrate pleasure into the different aspects of our life in ways that maybe seem less obvious. And today we're going to kind of play around a little bit with how we can find more pleasure in the creative process. And I guess, let me just start off by, asking, what is pleasure to you, Jeff?
What is pleasure? Well, that's a pretty good question. Pleasure is some kind of internal experience, I would say. If I tried this line, or if my college students, I teach songwriting at a college, if they tried this line, this would not fly. Pleasurable, is something that causes pleasure. No, but it's kind of true. What is pleasure? It's a feeling or an experience of, I would say almost pushing towards euphoria. A good feeling that is sort of several steps ahead of our normal internal experience.
And in your experience of when you're creating all the magical, wonderful things you've created in the world, how have you made the creative process pleasurable?
Are you still there? You disappeared.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm still here. Sure.
How have I made it pleasurable? Well, by doing it.
That's a good one. By living it.
By living it, you can't really have pleasure without experiencing it. And, in the case of creativity, if you get your pleasure from painting or singing or writing, well, that means create some kind of practice and, just actually do the thing. And I would say that, certainly plenty of the time, it's not particularly pleasurable, right? It's work, it's discipline, it's building skills. However, when it is pleasurable, when you're really tapped in and you're really creating from a place of depth and vulnerability and imagination, that the pleasure is, for me anyway, it's almost more than euphoric. It's almost mystical.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of lost in the flow of the actual creative process.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so do you feel that when you're in that lost flow that, you're coming from a place of genuine pleasure and connection more than a place of struggling or pain
or... Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, to be good, to create anything, or, if you're a painter, you need to have a paintbrush. You need to know how to hold it. You need to know how colors work. You need to know various strokes, and just like all the stuff about art.
Yeah,
that is skills. That is building a skill. And oftentimes when you're painting, that's where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. And there is a point, hopefully, in some paintings, or maybe all paintings, where you transcend that, where you get lost in the process of creation. And that is the pleasure. You know what you're doing. You're just doing it. So you look at, I'm big with the music. I coach lots of songwriters and musicians and stuff. Mm-hmm. If you look at great guitar players, or any musician for that matter, but let's just take a great guitar player, and you look at them while they're performing, and they're into it. They are experiencing, what I suppose call pleasure or even ecstasy. They are not thinking about the scales they're playing. They are not thinking about the beat. They are not thinking about the chord changes. They have let go of really their conscious experience and are just a part of the music. This is something that you cannot, you can't turn this on and off. It has to almost be graced to you. It is that flow state of knowing what you're doing and then letting go. And when you get there, it's an extremely powerful experience in terms of, pleasure, certainly. I mean, you talk to anybody who's done that in any kind of way with creativity, and they'll tell you, there ain't nothing on earth like it. And it is very healing for the creator, too. Because what you're really doing is tapping into sort of like a greater consciousness almost, which flows that creativity through you.
I love that. I love the feeling of that. So why is it so challenging then, as you talk about in your book, which I didn't mention when I want to mention very quickly? Awesome book about creating called Not Effing Around, the No Bullsh Guide for Getting Your Creative Dreams Off the Ground. And so we'll be talking about NFA here a little bit, no effing around. So, so what is causing all this procrastination to get to this feeling of pleasure? Why are we so, if we give such value to that pleasure, why do we sometimes seem so attached to its outcome?
Because it's hard.
What's hard?
The bottom line. To get to that flow state, to find that pleasure, it's hard. It's just like, runner's high. I'm not a runner, right? I wouldn't know, but I've heard
you got to run
runner's
far.
high is pretty. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But guess what? You got to run for an hour and a half before you get it.
Yeah.
Right. The same thing is true here. To play on stage like that, guitar player playing that solo and having this mystical experience through music, it's not going to happen in 5 minutes. You've got to do hundreds, maybe thousands of hours to get there. And then, even then, it's not going to happen all the time. Hopefully it happens more regularly, but, why do people not do difficult things? Because they're difficult. Humans generally try, we're sort of biologically and psychologically designed to conserve calories and energy. So we automatically want to do the least amount possible. That is where our consciousness has to come in to say, you know, like, yeah, there's more to the world. If you default to the easiest thing possible all the time, you will crash and burn every time.
Mm-hmm. And so if we come back to where the pleasure comes in during this ramping up period of becoming a virtuoso and whatever it is that you're doing, it almost sounds like you're getting more pleasure the more that you're engaged, the more time that you spend. I mean, hopefully.
Absolutely.
And maybe why you're doing it. That is probably why you would do it. It's one of the things I've always loved about artistic and performing people is it's almost a vocation, right? Like no one forces you to become a guitar player, you know, or a writer, right? Like you choose, maybe you're choosing the struggle, but maybe you're choosing the, you know, this pleasure that you're talking about.
Right. When you can see further down the line and see the payoff and get some of it as you go. I mean, when I first started playing guitar and I learned my first, you know, David Bowie riff or you know, Rush or Def Leppard, Ozzy, these things back then, I was like, I mean, I could barely play the thing, but I was like, oh my God, it was an extraordinary shot of pleasure, I suppose. I don't know if I would have said that at the time, but it's like, I'm creating something in this moment that sounds like this record. And if I really care about that record, that is an extraordinary moment for a 15-year-old, right? And that's a piece of pleasure. You know, then you move that forward a couple months or a year. Now you're playing those songs in a band for your high school friends. Like, wow, I'm not having an ecstatic experience like that guitar player necessarily, but it's still quite an experience, right? Your friends are jumping around and, you know, throwing stuff at you and whatever. You know, there's different levels of pleasure, and sort of what I was talking about there before was, you know, that almost that ecstatic flow of creativity. But there's certainly lots of pieces on the way to that.
Yeah, and you say in your book that when you're not effing around, that you know it, and everybody else in the room knows it also. So is this about? Is this a talent thing of what your output is, or is this more about a sense of integrity and that you're generally present in there and in a flow?
Right. So not effing around, and, you know, my definition is, you know, both having a mission in life, understanding what that is, why you are doing it, right? And then stepping forward with the truth of your heart every day, essentially. Moving towards this goal, and it's a goal that you believe in, whether it's creativity or not. I mean, NFA is anything, but I talk mostly about creativity. Yeah. People know it because they see the energy, they feel the energy around you, which is directed towards some goal that deeply matters to you.
So how does that work for creative people? You're a musician, you're a poet, you're an artist of some nature. How does your purpose come across there? Is it just to entertain people? Is it to heal people? What usually are creative? I mean, it's probably pretty personal, but
yeah. So at its best, creativity can help us be seen, expressed, healed, and connected.
Wow.
Okay, to be seen in the world means, you know, normally in the world we are not particularly well seen. The average person...
That's an algorithm problem.
What's that?
I said that's an algorithm problem. I'm just teasing. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, so we're not seen so much, yeah?
So we're not seen typically by our acquaintances. They don't really know about us. They don't really see us. Certainly the general public doesn't. And then, you know, even when you get closer, your sort of inner circles, your close friends, family, kids, lovers, partners, whatever. Hopefully they see you, but in my experience, they don't see all of you. So that's the seen part. What's the expressed part? In my definition, the expression is simply moving from potential to actual. So think of a dancer on a Saturday night. The disco balls spinning, the beats thumping, and she's sitting in the corner. In that moment, that dancer is not expressed as a dancer. As soon as she steps on the dance floor, she is expressed. Same thing, for a poet. You got a bunch of poems on your desk, that's great, but you're not expressed as a poet until you're writing a poem. Right?
I can resonate with that one.
Okay. So when you are expressed and tapping into your truth and vulnerability in your creativity, there is a healing that occurs in that process. I suppose you could call that pleasurable. It could be cathartic. It depends. It depends what it is and where it's at.
Yeah.
But every artist who does this knows this on some level. So when you are seen, expressed, and healed through your creativity, you then give your gift of creativity to the world. And when I say the world, I'm not talking about playing Madison Square Garden or the top of the box office or something. I'm talking about anybody else in the world. But here's where it gets cool. When you give your gift of creativity to the world, you become the gift because you show others that they can be seen, expressed, and healed. And what that does is it connects us all more deeply. Right? One of the biggest problems in the world is the world is so fractured and there's little empathy for others. Once we understand through creativity that although our personal experience is very different than others, we all share similar themes in our lives. Themes of love and redemption and respect and, family and friendship, all these kinds of things. Right? That's why when you watch your favorite movie or your favorite, read your favorite book or listen to your favorite songs or look at your favorite paintings, what's really happening there is an emotional connection or resonance from the artist and the artist's intention through their creativity to you so that you feel what they felt. Thus, you're not feeling as alone in the world.
I love that. Just let that sink in for me and for everyone. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that is one of the core ideas of what I do as a coach and what I do as a creator.
Yeah. Wow. You talk about the playfulness also of interacting with the world and continuing to play and versus kind of the focus on achievement or winning or succeeding. This sounds like this is part of that.
Sure. I mean, different people have different goals in everything. You can certainly shoot for the top of the heap, to be the biggest rock star in the world, and you can go for it. Or you can, make songs in your bedroom for you and to give to your girlfriend, right? Everything's valid. The question is, why are you doing it, and what are you getting out of it? And in terms of your lens, where's the pleasure? What people often misinterpret is that the pleasure is in the ends rather than the means. Like the process, actually creating the music, is where the pleasure really is. It is not going to be getting to the top of the chart. That may give you a jolt of pleasure, but that's really a once and done kind of deal. Then, you got to chase it some more. So in creativity, finding the true pleasure is simply in doing the thing. It's like if you love writing songs, keep writing them. Right? You can put them out and have career ambitions and stuff like that if you want. But I suspect you're not going to find nearly as much pleasure in climbing the career ladder as any kind of creative as you do in actually creating.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I cook a lot, and humbly suggest I cook quite well. And that has been an insanely creative process for me. It's one of my greatest creative processes, for sure. And yeah, I mean, the actual cooking process itself. I mean, the great thing about cooking, and this is kind of true, I guess, if you're in a live concert or something like this, like the interaction is immediate with the people who are there to savor it, to appreciate it with you, right? Which is a beautiful thing. And of course, cooking is also great, and eating is also great for the sense that it touches on the five senses. But no, I absolutely love that. And, you know, I've always, I come from a family, it was in the music business, and not the music, the Hollywood business and theater business, and my mom sang all these kinds of things. And so I've always intuitively felt the healing power of music, the connectiveness of music, the creation from love and the spreading of love, which I know you talk about also. And yeah, I just wonder, like you're saying, how can people who are trying to create something, who are getting stuck all the time, I keep saying to myself, well, somehow they've lost connection with the pleasure in it. Like maybe they don't want it enough, or maybe, what's causing this procrastination that people can't seem to kind of reconnect with that little glimmer of pleasure, even like you talk about visualization, like experiencing what it's like to actually be maybe that more accomplished guitar player or something. So how do you kind of help people along who are kind of already doing something creative and they want to kind of get more into it, and they're just kind of getting frustrated and finding time for it, and then they feel like they're not progressing? And how do you help through that period?
Well, I mean, the first thing I do as a coach is do a sort of deep dive assessment. What's really going on? Because generally what people think is going on is not the deep truth of what's going on. And that's with creativity, and it's with life in general. People have a very difficult time seeing and understanding, really, their own lives and experience. So as a coach, that's one of the things that I can step in there, ask 100 questions, and I'm like, okay, here's what I think might be going on, and then we can explore that. So there's essentially two levels, I guess I would say, that I work in as a coach. One is the outer world, what we'll call the outer world. And, that's sort of what you mentioned there first, which was, I don't have enough time. I don't have priorities. I always get stuck. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a strategy. I'm not good enough to do this, et cetera, et cetera. So that is one of the pieces that we look at. But we also look at the inner world. And the inner world is the subconscious world. And the subconscious world, for each of us, drives us probably 95% or more through our choices and our perspectives in the day. So our subconscious world is created largely in our youth, but really throughout our whole life. And it, we create identities about ourselves and belief systems about the world. Okay? And if these are positive and helpful, that's great. If you believe that, wow, I'm a smart, capable, charismatic guy, and I can do anything. Well, great. As a subconscious belief system, keep it. However, if your subconscious belief system says something like, when things get hard, I quit, and the world is rigged to cheat me, and things like this, everything you see and experience in life is going to go through those subconscious filters. You're going to act or react through that, and sooner or later things are going to go south. So as a coach, I look at the subconscious, at the inner world, and I use various techniques to help people explore that, become more conscious, and open that up and make that more helpful or useful. Guided meditations, various other exercises, things like that. And quite often, these things will open up, sort of epiphany, and people will be like, wow, okay, I did not know that was driving me. And from there, once you're conscious of these things, you can start to make choices. When you're not conscious, you can never really make choices. You'll just call it fate.
We're not conscious of the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's great. Very deep, very meaningful. So do you play guitar still? You play acoustic guitar?
I play acoustic and electric, bass, program, drums, and synthesizers.
Yeah? You don't have your acoustic guitar with you? You don't want to play us something?
No.
Beautiful. So I was going to actually ask you maybe, either directly with me or you think it would be interesting for people watching this to have a visualization experience by you, if you'd like to do a short one. Is that something that could be possible right here so that people could actually experience that when they listen to this?
No, I'm not going to do that right now. If they want to do that, I'm happy to do it. They can sign up on my website, and I'd be happy to do that with them.
Okay. So, to revisit NFA a little bit more. Some of the things you say in the book is discover what you love and why, declare your dream, time travel with your future self, which I think we were talking about in visualization, start before you're ready. It's a challenging one sometimes. Fail fast, say yes and, be the shining star that you are, play it unsafe, F the IC, which I believe is the internal critic. Is that right? Crush on the process. F around. And so what I want to talk a little bit about is saying yes and, because that feels like the pleasurable way of exploring your creativity and actually getting into it. So you can talk a little bit about that?
Yes and comes from my experience doing improv comedy. Okay. So if you've ever done this, one of the tenets of improv comedy is say yes and. So what does this mean? In improv, it means that one actor is going to create a world or a dialogue. Hey, David, spaghetti is falling from the sky. Okay? If you shut that down, the drama stops. No, there's no spaghetti falling from the sky. Well, okay, the improv stops. If you say, yes, I agree with this, spaghetti is falling from the sky, and that's great because I've got a whole truckload of meatballs over here. Right? You can move the story forward. So what does that mean in terms of NFA? It means that we can, when a possibility comes to us, we can accept that possibility or deny it, right? Spaghetti isn't likely to fall from the sky, but perhaps a friend says, hey, I know you haven't picked up your guitar for 3 years, but how about you write a song for my birthday party? Right? So at that point, you can say yes, you can agree with that, and you add to it. Yeah, that's cool. And you know what? My buddy is a rapper, so I'm going to get my rapper friend to play on this. Right? So by accepting possibility and adding value to it, you step forward in your experience, and it opens up possibilities for you.
That's good.
So that's really what we're talking about with the yes and.
It's beautiful, very abundant, very positive. That's good. So also in the book you talk about effing the inner critic and like sitting it down, having a conversation with it. I think this is something that I think a lot of people, including myself, sometimes struggle with this, this monkey on the shoulder, distractions, anything to get away from actually dealing and getting into doing the work, as you're saying, just kind of get into the creating. So can you talk a little bit more about how we deal best with the inner critic?
Sure. So the inner critic is built into all of us as a way to keep us safe. Right? However, and there's value in that, right? That's why it's there. It keeps us safe. Thousands of years ago or whatever, we were all in small tribes running around. And if you did something stupid, or said something stupid, you could be essentially kicked out of the tribe. You get kicked out of the tribe and you're going to die. There's no way for you to live. So that is why that's there. However, you fast forward to this moment, the inner critic, while it still has some value, for sure, in keeping you safe, just like pretty much everything in the modern world, it gets amplified in ways that are not helpful. Right? So now the inner critic says, I'm too scared to put my song on Spotify. Like, why? What is the problem? What is the worst thing that could happen? Which is always a good question to ask yourself. Worst thing that could happen, you put your song on Spotify, somebody listens to it, somebody doesn't listen to it, somebody likes it, somebody hates it, or somebody doesn't care. It's basically the only things that are going to happen. Right? The worst thing that can happen there is people don't care. And they don't care already because you haven't done it yet. So, it's a good idea to look and try to identify your inner critic, see what's actually stopping you, or see what it's stopping you from doing, and then evaluate it. If your inner critic says, hey, I probably shouldn't invest all my money in my friend's harebrained plot to, do whatever, that's probably a good idea. Don't do it, right? The inner critic is saving you from financial ruin. However, if it's a small, just a small thing where you're taking a risk and stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit, well, that's where the growth is. It's from stepping out of your comfort zone, right? So that's the time to let your inner critic quiet down.
And do you feel we can find pleasure in that moment, that getting out of our own way, that validating suddenly who we are, that moment of kind of adrenaline, almost like I finally took the risk? Where would you say somehow we could find, create, invent, imagine, visualize something as being easeful, pleasurable, when it's actually kind of, for us, kind of a big step, or an inner critic kind of thing?
Right. So what you're talking about there is moving from discomfort to comfort. When you step out and do something uncomfortable, it's not pleasurable. It's the opposite of pleasurable. It's uncomfortable, right? But when you do that, and you do that with integrity, and you know why you're doing it, and you stand firmly in your discomfort, sooner or later, your comfort zone will expand such that it is comfortable for you again. And this is where you will find pleasure, because that is where the growth is. There is pleasure in growth and connection. Right? If you're not willing to step outside of that comfort zone, you will never experience that pleasure.
Beautiful. I love that. That's where I'm coming from. I love that. Well, listen, Jeff, this is really fascinating. I love how you see how we create and what kind of getting us around everything that's making it less pleasurable. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about where we could find you, what you're up to, whatever you'd like to share in this moment. And we will add stuff afterwards into the comments and stuff of the body to share with people.
Great. So, you can find all about me and what I'm up to at jeffleisawitz.com. If you can spell that even close to correctly, you'll probably find it. I offer complimentary sessions for people. You can sign up and I'll Zoom with people. I've got clients all over the world. So that's sweet. And we will find out and figure out sort of what is stopping you from moving forward on your creative, your creative endeavors. Just like we talked about here, finding more pleasure in what you're doing and getting closer to your goals as you do that. So yeah, just go to the website and sign up. And if you dig the book or want to check out the book, you can just go to Amazon and you can get it there.
Awesome book. I want to go up and put a review.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Really, really powerful, empowering, to the point, down to earth, visionary. It's really a really great read. So if anyone has the opportunity, I encourage you to pick that up. So just a couple more questions here before we wrap up, Jeff. Mm-hmm. So what is a pleasurable life for you?
What is a pleasurable life? It's all kinds of things, right? Certainly for me, it's creating, right? It is experiencing others' creations, meaning art and music and film and books and all those kinds of things that I love. But it's other stuff, it's food, it's sex, it's breathing good air, the sunshine, friends, family, all the stuff. So, yeah.
Good. And what are you creating right now that you want to share with us or give us a taste of or something?
Well, I don't know if I can give you a taste of it, but I'm just working on music,
Music, yeah.
Lots of recordings and stuff like that, yeah.
Uh-huh. What kind of music?
I'm doing mostly sort of mid and down tempo electronic stuff at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this like dance music or like movie soundtrack or?
No, it's more sort of almost melancholy love songs, something like that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So we'll be able to find this at some point on.
Hopefully, you'll be able to find it on TV.
Okay, there we go.
Where I'm attempting to license these things. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I love it. So what I usually like to do at the end of the show is let my guest close the show for us to share whatever you want to share, about the pleasures in living your creative process and whatever else you'd like to share, and then we'll call it a day.
Well, thank you. Like I said before, in terms of creativity anyway, it takes effort and energy and direction and focus. Stepping out of the comfort zone. So, as my friends at the sneaker company once said, just do it.
Well said. Thanks so much for being here, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
We'll catch y'all later on another episode of Make Living Pleasurable Show. Take care of yourselves.